Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
Giving all praises to Allah, the Father of the universe, cherisher and sustainer of all the balanced universes. I extend the highest of honors to His holy and divine prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam? I extend high honors as well to his forerunner, the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, the founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, who did indeed war and stir up the nations. Islam? I extend high honors to the Moorish flag, the red flag with the 5-pointed green star in the center. These 5 points represent love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. These are the 5 highest principles known to man. Islam? Extend honors to the American flag, also known as the Stars and Stripes. This flag exists as a constant reminder that the European nations owe you, the Moors, with compound interest. Islam? This is also the flag of our birth. Islam, Moors? Extending honors to the Noble Sheikh staff and Noble Vanguard staff who keep the peace, and giving honors to you, the Ills and Bays, for without you, there is no Moorish movement. Islam, Moors? How's everyone on this holy day?
All is well.
Praise Allah. Moors, I just want to say, man, y'all missed a phenomenal Moorish American Remembrance Day in Philadelphia on Monday, October 14th. There were Moors from all over the country. I would venture to say, and Brother Raphael could correct me if I'm wrong, but there may have been about, how many states would you say represented more? Could I say 10?
Probably say more.
Probably more than 10 states represented. Brooklyn, yes, New York, but Brooklyn, Alabama, of course, Atlanta, and so on and so forth. Wasn't as, the numbers were down from last year, but still the point of seeing multiple fezzes and turbans and everything all in the streets, and it was just beautiful. It was a beautiful experience. I think our sister Queen, she's getting dialed up in the back, but she has a testimony of different foreign nationals, seeing us and may I take a picture with you? I think of the Sister Queen. Yes. I need a witness. Can you attest to the fact of on Monday, Moorish American Remembrance Day, the foreign nationals that were rushing up to you to take pictures with you?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Bum rushed. I mean, we couldn't even get up the block a little bit. Oh my God, y'all look like royalty. Oh, this is beautiful. Oh, I've never seen it in my life. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing more beautiful than you just being yourself. You know what I mean? Like the thing about it is that we don't recognize ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Like the nations of the earth, when you come as yourself, they automatically know who you are. It's not even a question. But it's your own that will ridicule you for being yourself, and you have to be prepared for that.
Yes, sir.
Islam. This is why, being a part of your lessons, being part and partial to your institution, Brother Akil. Being part and partial to your lessons, attending your meetings properly, studying lessons, so on and so forth, is very important because, when you get to the point, Allah willing, that you have, take it on, okay, I want to don a turban, I want to don a fez, whatever. There's a lot that comes with that. It's more than just a headdress. It's more than that. A fez is not a hat. A fitted cap is a hat. You know what I'm saying? But, and you also forsake the option of functioning as an individual when you wear a fez or turban. You represent an entire empire of people. That was, a conglomerate of nations. Right. Islam. But tonight, I want to demonstrate, if y'all can stay focused, Sister Queen back there, hooking up some videos. My body's, we hear the sound, the smell's on its way, so I'm going to try to keep them focused. I might have to end it early, because I know how you do. Islam? So more, try to stay with me if you can. Islam? All right. Allah laid on my heart this week to speak on leadership. Leadership is a very important thing because, a lot of us think that all of us are leaders. You've heard that, right? We don't need a leader because we're all leaders, right? Right. In potentiality, yes. Right? Actuality, no. Right? Because a leader is one who has gone through the fire. If you look at literally, like if you look at Prophet Noble Drew Ali on our charter, right at the bottom, you see him at the bottom. What do you see behind him? Flames, right? Symbolizing the fact that he came before the destruction, right? Also symbolizing the fact that what he had to go through to even stand up for our people, right? You have to be prepared as a leader to be persecuted by your own, right? There's not a prophet, sage, enlightened one, oracle, whomever, who did not stand up to speak truth and was not persecuted by their own. It comes with it, right? And if you're not prepared for that, you might want to sit down and get some more lessons before you attempt to take on the mantle of leadership. Islam? Tonight I'd like to draw from our forerunner, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, drawing from his message to the people, Course in African Philosophy. Okay? He has a section here entitled Leadership. So lesson 2. It says, to lead suggests that you must have followers. For others to follow you, you must be superior to them in the things that they must follow you for. You must have a superior ability in the particular. You must always be ahead by way of knowledge of all those that you lead. The moment you fall down from the position of superior ability, you will automatically fail to lead and you will have to follow others. Therefore, you must be ever vigilant in keeping ahead of those you lead by getting the latest and most correct information for which they are searching, because for it they are following you. People only respect leaders and follow them when there is something superior in them, right? Something I like to instruct, when I instruct teachers, sheiks, so on and so forth, is that when you lose the moral position, some call it the high ground. When you lose that high ground, you lose the authority to guide people, right? Look at how our people, extol and uplift Malcolm X, our brother Malcolm, right? Well, when you read like the FBI files on Malcolm, you find out that they were very upset about Malcolm because they couldn't find anything on him. Squeaky, right? There were other leaders in that time, and I'm not gonna mention any names because I violate the law, but there were other ones in that same era who were prominent leaders, not so clean. They had all kind of files on. So Malcolm, they couldn't find anything on. So when they can't find anything on you and you're speaking absolute truth, there's only one option. You got, if you're the adversary, you got to go. You understand what I'm saying? So, but the thing is that his effect outlived him. You have generations behind him still quoting things that he said then, right? Because he was above reproach in that regard, right? Now, were there other things? Yeah, because he was a young man. We have to remember, Malcolm got assassinated in 39. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So in terms of temperament, maybe speaking out of turn here and there, because it's, the messenger told him don't speak and he spoke. That's young man stuff. That happens, right? But in terms of, impeachable offenses, stuff like that, they couldn't find anything, right? So that is a quality, and that, I could go to different leaders as well, but that is a quality that we can all relate to a leader that held the moral high ground. Islam? He says, a leader must have a personality. He must be clean cut in his appearance so as not to be criticized. An untidy leader is always a failure. He must be neatly dressed and his appearance must be clean and presentable because people are supposed to follow him in his manner, behavior, and his general conduct. A leader's hair should always be well kept and his teeth must also be in perfect order, for people will criticize him for his uncut hair and his bad teeth. That sounds frivolous, doesn't it? But when you're talking about our people talk about you because you got some dust on your shoe. Our people won't even tell you got an eye boogie in your eye. But we family though. We family, but you let me walk around like this, right? Just to tell somebody else later, did you see him with that? He all out, he didn't look in the mirror this morning. Islam? Let alone if you're a leader in front of the congregation or your membership or the people like that. Islam? Prophet Noble Drew Ali says, most Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water, right? This might sound crazy. The Prophet had to teach back in the 20s, he had to drive the message home to tell Moors to bathe before they came to the temple, right? You gotta remember now, this is the 20s. Slavery was just declared out in 1865, right? So our people's minds were shattered, right? So people were coming to the temple in all kind of, situations. So he had to rebuild us from scratch. Things that you teach children to do, right? He had to teach adults, right? Times haven't changed much. You'd be surprised what I've had to tell Moors about coming to the temple. Islam Moor, make sure this is a holy place. Make sure you brush your teeth, make sure you comb more shave before you come to the temple. And we wear beards and all this type of stuff. At least trim your beard up. You don't have haircut. Your brother's a barber. The Moors own a barbershop. There's no excuse. It's no excuse for you. I know you know where it's at because you attend the meeting. We're here. Islam. So in that regard, there's no excuse. Islam. So your appearance is everything. So, And they say you never get a second chance to redo a first impression. It says your shoes and other garments must also be clean. If you look ragged, people will not trust you. They will critically say he has no clothing, his shoes are very poor, and it is logical that whatever money he gets a hold of, he will use it on himself rather than for the purpose for which he makes his appeal. Never show your personal poverty to those you lead. They will never trust you. This does not mean that you should not reveal the poverty of the cause that you represent, because that cause is your cause and the people's cause, in which both of you are interested. Never tell lies to those you lead. Sooner or later, they will find you out, and then your career will come into an abrupt end. No man ever trusts a person a second time, whom he believes once and has proof for his disbelief. A leader, under all circumstances, must carry himself with dignity. He must not be a snob, but he must maintain his pride. Moderation, right? A leader cannot well afford to mix himself up with anything that is not dignified or self-respecting. If you have to do something that you know will be morally and socially ashamed of if someone else knows, never do it. Because if you have to do it, but if you have to do it, see to it that you are careful that no one knows. Prophet says, keep it out the eyes of the public, right? Because even the leader is going through something too. People don't talk about that, right? But at least have enough strength and dignity to not, right? You know what I'm saying? Like the prophet says, glory and shame are misplaced. So where, and he says, where there's a shame to be ignorant, there he has no understanding. So there's some ones that call themselves leaders that don't have the sense of mind to say, I shouldn't do this in front of the people, right? And when they do it, it opens the door for all kind of madness amongst the people, right? It says, don't carry weakness on your face or in your eyes. Someone will detect it and you will be ruined. If you have personal weaknesses, try to conquer them and hide them as long as you can until you have conquered them. Otherwise, you will be ruined. Every man can conquer his vices by bringing his subconscious will to play upon and against such vices. Now, all these like self-help books and all that stuff. This was way before that. Garvey wrote this in the 20s. Islam? So he was putting this up on that mode of thought eons ago. He says, in everything you do, play the gentleman. Never be a hog. It doesn't pay. You lose a friend every time you play the hog. Don't be greedy. It says, keep smiling with the world, even though your mother is dead. What does that mean?
When you're going through the hurt, keep it smiling.
But peep the metaphor though, right? Because especially as brothers, you know what your mother means to you, right? Right. Your mama died. I'll give you an example, perfect example. Allah just gave it to us this Monday. Grand Sheikh Azim Hopkins Bey that led the Moorish American remembers that, right? He came out there, he demonstrated full, took us all around. At each stop, he gave an elaborate demonstration, whatever. When it was done, we caravanned over and went over to a banquet, came over to the bank and made sure everybody was secure. He came in front and took the mic and said, Islam Moors, I just want to make the announcement. I have to leave you all, because my daughter is in the hospital and I have to go tend to her. And I'm like, look at that. Praise Allah for that strength of leadership. The fact that his daughter was in the hospital, but he still came forward to lead the Moors. Those are the kind of leaders we need.
Yes, sir.
Islam, Moors?
Islam.
We don't need no weak leaders, Moors.
Yes, sir.
Islam? Our children have to. I scared y'all, didn't I? I'm sorry. Sometimes it's just your ancestors just take over, just have no control over it. But sometimes, and see, when you look at the face of the babies, if that don't inspire you to do better or to do great things, then you're not cut to be a leader. Sit down somewhere and get your lesson. Islam? There's nothing wrong with saying, I don't have the strength of that. I want to sit in the groves a little longer, and get my degrees. Islam? All right? That's what this temple is for. All more science temples. He says, smile with the world and the world will smile back with you. Be vexed with the world and the world will be vexed with you. Nobody's obligated to make you happy. So don't carry your sorrow to the world and on your sleeves. Keep them to yourself and get them out of them the best way you can. Leaders are not children. They must not therefore act as children. Leaders must be self-possessed, confident, feeling self-reliant. When your followers see that self-confidence, they will believe in and follow you. Always speak out right from the head and from your heart. If your heart is not in it, it is a lie. If your head is not in it, it is pure sentiment. Your heart and your head must work together. People observing you can always tell when you are sincere. That is when you speak from your heart and your head. They can always tell when you are fooling them by looking into the eyes, and you cannot stand their gaze. At that time, indeed, you are lying. When your heart and your head is in it, your whole body expresses the truth, and you can hold any man's stare. A leader must not be extravagant. He must not be flashy in the sense of being over sporty. People will not think you are serious. Always make your followers believe you are serious. You can be serious without being sour. Always think before you speak or act. Don't write or speak just to hear yourself. Speak or write only when you have something to say, and never touch anything by way of leadership that you don't know about, because somebody who knows about it will have a joke at your expense. A leader must always have something to say, otherwise he forfeits his leadership and someone else who has something to say will supplant it. A leader should always make an effort to be known in his community. He must acquaint himself with everything that is happening. He must know the governor of the state or country, the secretary of his state, or his colonial secretary. He must know the mayor of his city and all members of the legislature. He must know the bishops of his city, the administrative heads of all government departments, all preachers, doctors, and lawyers, and prominent businessmen. That's nation building, right? We don't say nation building just to say it. It's something cool to say, right? It's an actual networking that has to take place, right? By demonstrating what leadership is and exposing your support, right, to other leaders, reciprocal helps and mutual obligations. Islam, he says, don't be seen with communists too often. So this is the 20s, right? So we can very well supplant that in this day and time. Don't be seen with the sovereign citizens too often. If you know them. Never take part in their meetings unless you are to make a speech against their principles. And always see that it is known by the public that that is your only reason for going amongst them. Never let them call you a comrade for others to hear, because you will be branded a communist or a sovereign citizen, and your leadership will be destroyed. You must seek to know all the people you want to be in your organization. Visit their homes, their workplaces, and anywhere you can meet them, and always extend to them a glad hand. Always be diplomatic in your approach. Islam Morris? Because this has to be more than we just an organization. You know what I'm saying? Because if I don't care about you, how much of a commitment will you make to the organization? Islam? If I visit you at your home, you know what I'm saying? I might see some things that you might not have told me about, and I'll keep it to myself, and I might pull you aside, like, well, if you need assistance with X, Y, and Z, we're there for you. Islam, whereas you might not have said that on your own. You know, because, we are proud people almost to a fault. Islam was? You do realize our people are not going to tell you what's wrong with them.
Yes, sir.
Right? You have to be perceptive enough in your approach to perceive it and assist them in that regard. Islam was? All right? Y'all all right?
Yes, sir.
A couple more paragraphs and I'll move on. Right? He says, he used the word Negro in this. I'll switch it for Asiatic. He says, if Asiatic is in company with a European, he said white man, but I say European, never talk to him, he says UNIA, but for this purpose, I say MSTI. Right? He says, now take it over. He says, if an Asiatic is in the company of a European, never talk to him about the MSTI. He said, if he is in company with someone who you think is not in sympathy with the MSTFA, do not talk about it. Talk about the MSTFA. Wait until he is alone. Never say anything to one person who may be in sympathy with the MSTFA in the presence of 2 or 3 people, unless you know that the others are also sympathetic. Because when you are gone, the others may try to undo the good relationship. Strategist. Small was a master. He said, but when you meet Asiatic strangers, you may talk to all of them about the aims of the MSTFA and try to win them over. Never divide or create confusion between the different colors of the Asiatic race. Always try to prove that the standard Asiatic is the African, and that all Asiatics should be proud of their Asiatic blood without insulting any color within the race. This is very, very important. The idea of the MSTFA is to unite into one race all the shades of color to build up a standard race. You should discourage intermarriage between Europeans and Asiatics and other races. You should tell the people that it's an honor to be Asiatic and that there's nothing wrong with the Asiatic skin but bad conditions. Tell them that a well-kept Asiatic woman or Asiatic man is as good as a well-kept European man or European woman. Never allow your followers to have their children play with European dolls, because they will grow up like European children and they will have them. Discourage the Asiatics from having European pictures in their homes, because the pictures will inspire them to become European in their ideas. Inspire them to have pictures of Asiatics who have achieved greatness in their homes. Tell Asiatic parents that they must teach their children Asiatic history, Asiatic pride and self-respect in their homes to counteract the elementary and high school education that they get holds up the superiority of the European race. Let the people know that that God is not European nor is he Asiatic, but God is a spirit and universal intelligence of which each and every one is a part. All of us are a part of that intelligence. All right, and for the purposes of which we're speaking, I'll yield there. Islam Morris? All right, is that making sense to you all? See, this is why Allah sent Marcus Garvey first. He had to come in the long line of our nation builders first to lay the foundation. All right, when you study Prophet Noble Drew Ali, if you know Garvey, you'll see clearly that Prophet Noble Drew Ali was camelbacking on what Marcus Garvey laid. Islam? All right, so we say our mission statement is to uplift fallen humanity and teach those things necessary to make our people better citizens, right? But that uplifting of fallen humanity, that's Marcus Garvey. We admit that. You know what I'm saying? Because we honor that. The Prophet taught us when we stand up in our temples as Grand Sheikhs, we have to give honors to Marcus Garvey openly, right? And there's a reason for that, and that reason is because our institution is built on foundations he laid. Islam? And keep in mind, Marcus Garvey did not call himself a Moorish American. Let's make that clear. He didn't call himself Moorish American. So Moorish Americans are in the business beefing with others that don't refer themselves as Moorish Americans. Islam? If we honor them, if you're moving in a way that we can respect principles and so on and so forth, we got something we can build on. Islam Morris? All right. Next, I'd like to draw from in your Qurans, chapter 29, magistrate and subject. Parts of. Okay. Say Islam when you're there. Right? So this chapter constitutes our definition, the Moorish American definition of what a leader is and what he does. All right? Actually, let's go up to chapter 28, master and servant. Right? And be clear, the prophet, when he says master and servant, get all thoughts of European psychology out of your head. Because when we hear master, we think slave master. Right? That's not what you were masters before you met the European. Right? And those masters had servants. Islam? So he's taking us back to a Moorish mode. All right? So, holy instructions from the prophet, master, and servant. Instruction 1. Repine not, which means complain not. Shut up, sister. Make sure. Instruction 1. Repine not, O man, at the state of servitude, Sister Hafiza. Okay, great. At the state of servitude is the appointment of Allah, and it hath many advantages. It removeth thee from the cares and solicitudes in life. The honor of a servant is his fidelity. His highest virtues are submission and obedience. Be patient, therefore, under the reproofs of thy master, and when he rebuketh thee, answer not again. The silence of thy resignation shall not be forgotten. Be studious of his interests, be diligent in his affairs, and be faithful to the trust which he reposeth in thee. Thy time and thy labor belong unto him. Defraud him not thereof, for he payeth thee for them. Let me stop there. All right. Let's say you're a leader, right? And you have soldiers under you, right? The soldiers that are under you, the first 5 instructions are for your soldiers. That's how they're to conduct themselves to the leader, all right? So in that mind, let's go back over a couple of them. It says, instruction 4, be studious of his interests, be diligent in his affairs, and be faithful to the trust which he reposes in thee. So if as the leader, you give an order, something got to be done, right? That's the methodology that the soldiers have to take. You got to be studious of the leader's interests. So in other words, to the point where, as the order was given, is how you should execute it. Islam, don't remix the order while you're out because you think it might be better. You lean into your own understanding, right? However, in the event that someone's life could be endangered by that order being carried out that way, you do have the right in that to countermand that and then give an account as to why when you get back. Islam Wars? All right? And the reason why this has to be taught is because our people have a problem with rank and file structure.
Yes, sir.
Horrible problem with it. And that was a part of the European psychology. That was a part of, see, in your ancient Moorish, we talk about the Moorish Empire and all that stuff, right? Right? When the Sultan spoke, that was it, right? Period, right? And the response from the soldiers was, we hear and we obey. There was no in between. Word came down, the Sultan said this, and it got done. Period. Because in those days, if it didn't get done, yeah, you'd be shorter by a few inches because you're exactly head lopped off, right? But as far as the leader or the master or the sultan or whatever, there's instructions because the leader can't be a tyrant either, right? So instruction 6, and thou who art master, be just to thy servants if thou expectest from him fidelity, and reasonable in thy commands if thou expectest ready obedience. The spirit of a man is in him. Severity and rigor may create fear, but can never command love. Mix kindness with reproof and reason with authority. So shall thy admonitions, when we talk about that friendly admonition, so shall thy admonition take place in his heart, and his duties shall become his pleasure. He shall serve thee faithfully from the motive of gratitude. He shall obey thee cheerfully from the principle of love, and fail thou not in return to give his diligence and fidelity their proper reward. Islam, Morris? So even when offering correction, you still have to remember this is a man you're talking to. Or sisters, you got to remember that's a woman you're talking to. We ain't here to take your humanity. We just here to offer you a little correction.
Yes, sir.
Islam, Morris? And a lot of times ones get a title. Oh man, y'all ever had a job and like you was on the same rank with somebody and they got a promotion over you? Y'all was cool at first. Then that joker got a title, and what did he become? Tyrant. Despot. Islam, Morris? He was worse than a European slaveholder. Islam? All right? But the key is remember the spirit of a man is in him. Y'all know the demonstration that Machiavelli gave. Is it better to be feared than to be loved? The prophet just answered that from a Moorish perspective. Let's go back to what he says. Instruction 7, right? The spirit of a man is in him. Severity and rigor may create fear, but can never command love. Here, the thing about fear, fear wears off. Right? Our people used to be afraid of the European. But this generation here, not so much. Not so much, right? Not in the way of, I knew elders when, my barbershop used to be on Auburn Avenue downtown. Across from the barbershop was a high rise, like for elders, like assisted living. And the elders used to come across and we talked sometime and we chop it up. So we'd be on the sidewalk, right on Auburn Avenue, right on the sidewalk talking, right down the street is the King Center, right? So it'd be a bunch of Europeans coming up the sidewalk, right? So one time I was talking to this elder, he had to be like 72, 73. So he seen the Europeans coming up the sidewalk, and he stepped off the sidewalk. I said, elder, we don't do that no more, come stand right here. I took him, stood him right next to me, stood right in the middle of the sidewalk, and made the Europeans walk around.
That's right.
And he dropped his head. I said, elder, lift your head, we don't do that no more. But you gotta remember, your elders still suffer from that.
Yes, sir.
Right? You gotta remember what was done to them. Y'all know y'all heard the term laughing barrel?
Yes, sir.
What's a laughing barrel, brother? I know you know. The laughing barrel. Remember the word? Remember what purpose it served? What was a laughing barrel?
So, Islam. The purpose of the laughing barrel during the days of Jim Crow and Reconstruction was Asiatics could not laugh in public or in the presence of so-called white people. So they would have to go into a little barrel and physically ha ha he ki ka ka inside of a barrel because they could not it was not permissible to do it in front of Europeans.
Islam. So a lot of our elders are still walking around right now have those experiences. They had the yes sir 8-year-old European boys. It's a grown man. Yes sir? No sir? To a child. So what does that do to him psychologically? Islam? So we have to take these lessons and heal everybody. We got to heal our elders. We got to heal the children. Because what the elders experience, they pass that teaching right down in some way, shape, or form. Even if not verbally, through their example. You ever been around somebody that's afraid? Right? You ever been in a room where, let's say, a cop walk in the room, right? And some of our people have that, right? How about this? I got one better. You ever be in a room like this, and we're talking about the European, and you ever catch somebody doing this? Yeah, man, it's unjust. I can't stand what they're doing. Because, white folks. And they know Europeans around.
Every day.
Self-regulating. So even when they're not around, their soul is not the spirit, but their soul is saying to respect that. What does it take to beat that into somebody on a soul level? Fear. Unadulterated fear. Consistent. Right? It's the same thing. They take the strongest of you and kill you in the streets. Islam Morris? All right? So the leader has to rise above all of that and be the example that leaves the footprints clearly cut. So the people, all those that come behind them know that's the way I walk, right? Because, men love to follow and not to lead. So they need somebody in their presence. They need a God they can see at this point. Islam? All right, let's move forward. So chapters 28 and 29 are pretty much the same chapter when you read them, right? And notice the duality, master and servant, and magistrate and subject, okay? And what mode of government do you have subjects?
Kingdom?
Yes, which is a monarchy, right? And then in a republic, you have citizens, okay? So it says, he's talking about a monarchy here. Because that's what our forefathers demonstrated, right? So that was our traditional mode. Instruction 1, O thou, the favorite of heaven, whom the sons of men, thy equals, have agreed to raise to sovereign power and set as a ruler over themselves. Consider the ends and importance of their trust far more than the dignity and height of thy station. In other words, don't let your title go to your head, right? Moving forward, he says, thou art clothed in purple, the royal color, right? And seated on a throne. The crown of majesty investeth thy temples. The scepter of power is placed in thy hand, but not for thyself were these ensigns given, not meant for thine own, but for the good of thy kingdom. The glory of a king is the welfare of his people. His power and dominion rests on the heart of his subjects. The mind of a great prince is exalted with the grandeur of his situation. He evolveth high things and searcheth for business worthy of his power. That book that Machiavelli wrote, what was it called? The Prince. Instruction 4, the mind of a great prince. You're getting those same degrees, but from our perspective. Right? Instruction 5, he calleth together the wise men of his kingdom. He consulteth amongst them with freedom. He heareth the opinions of them all. He looketh amongst his people with discernment. He discovereth the abilities of men and employeth them according to their merits. His magistrates are just, his ministers are wise, and the favorite of his bosom deceiveth him not. He smileth on the arts, and they flourish. The sciences improve beneath the culture of his hand. One of the ways to tell the civilization of a people is look at their arts. Look at, like in other words, right now, if somebody was to examine our civilization, right, and say, well, let's listen to their music. What are they going to hear? What are they going to think about us? By our arts.
Savage.
Right? How our sisters are depicted in popular media, right? What are they going to think about our sisters? Globally, right? I'm saying, like, if somebody's in China watching a Tyler Perry movie, respect to Tyler Perry. I mean, just real quick, as a sidebar, I have a different respect for Tyler Perry. I get that. Somebody remind me to get back to that.
Yes, sir.
But watching the movies that he produced and stuff like that, those movies go out globally, right? So when they see us in the dress, and Medea and this and that, whatever, what do they think about our men? Effeminate, so on and so forth. Islam, all right? So again, just you study the arts of the people. That's why the mind of the magistrate or the prince or the sultan, his job is to make sure that positive imagery, like it's a reason why we commission artwork. So our babies, when they think of Jesus, they can look at that right there on that wall, that first picture. You want to think about Muhammad? We ain't got no pale Arab. That's Muhammad, the second picture.
Yes, sir.
You want to talk about Ruth the Moabitess? There she go.
Praise the Lord.
Islam wars? We're not playing no games because we have instructions. Islam? Instruction 9. With the learned and ingenious he delighteth himself. He kindleth in their breasts emulation, and the glory of his kingdom is exalted by their labors. Now here we go. The spirit of the merchant who extendeth his commerce, the skill of the farmer who enriches his lands, the ingenuity of the artist, the improvements of the scholar, all these he honors with his favor or rewardeth with his bounty. That's nation building. Right? So you don't have to figure it out. There it is right there. All you have to do is follow up. Islam? Instruction 11. He planteth new colonies. He buildeth strong ships. He openeth the rivers for convenience. He formeth harbors for safety, and his people abound in riches. Right? And the strength of his kingdom increaseth. He frameth his statutes with equity and wisdom. His subjects enjoy the fruit of their labor and security. For those who have personal Qurans or taking notes, underline the word security. And their happiness consists in the observance of the law. So here we have a civilization of people that don't mind observing the law. Is that our people in the current state? Or are we complete anarchists? Right? Trying to evade the law. How many people you know coming up around February, March, going to try to find somebody else's children to claim on their taxes? I know nobody here would do such a thing. Nobody in these precincts would do such a thing. Not Moorish American Muslims. Islam? We ain't doing that. We ain't demonstrating them degrees, are we, Moors? That's the way that y'all responded. I know y'all doing it. It's like, we got one right here? Don't point him out more. Tekashi 6ix9ine, look at you. Boy, snitch you out. All right? Moving forward, Moors. Instruction 13. He foundeth his judgments on the principle of mercy. But in the punishment of offenders, he is strict and impartial. You know, in Moorish governance, you can't be like, oh, that's my man, so I'm going to let him live. If your right hand offended you, you have to cut it off. Islam? Let me read that again, because we have to be clear on that. He founded his judgments on the principles of mercy, but in the punishment of offenders, he is strict and impartial. His ears are open to the complaints of his subjects. He restraineth the hands of their oppressors, and he delivereth them from their tyranny. His people therefore look up to him as a father, with reverence and love. They consider him as the guardian of all they enjoy. Their affection unto him begetteth in their breasts a love of the public. The security of their happiness is the object of his care. Those taking notes underline the word security again. Instruction 17. No murmurs against him arise in their hearts. The machinations of his enemies endanger not the state. His subjects are faithful and firm in his cause. They stand in his defense as a wall of brass. The army of a tyrant flieth before them as a shaft of wind. We demonstrated the wall of brass on Monday. One of the sheikesses in Philadelphia had to wrap a sister's turban. Right, we were out in the open though, and you know, in Philadelphia specifically, but you know, various temples have picked up the custom. The way that the turban is wrapped, the Moorish turban is wrapped, is sacred. We don't really just show people how to do that. Islam. So the sheikhs came to me and said, Islam Grand Sheikh, I have to wrap the sister's turban. Well, I said, I already got your sister. And we formed a wall of brass. We blocked them in, and then all the people knew that she sat down with no turban on, and she got up Moorish as ever. That's all everybody. Islam? Let's read that instruction again, because these things will be demonstrated, not just to be talked about, right? His subjects are faithful and firm in his cause. They stand in his defense as a wall of brass. The army of a tyrant flieth before them as chaff, which means trash, by the way, before the wind, right? Instruction 19. Security, underline that word again. Security and peace bless the dwelling of his people, and glory and strength encircle his throne forever. Islam Moors? Of note, let me ask this. What is the most important duty of a head of state? Speak up. Somebody said it. Security. If a head of state, a sultan, a leader can't protect his people, he's not a leader. Islam? Notice that in that chapter, the word security is mentioned 3 times as a sign. The prophet embeds jewels in there because he teaches according to science. So he's trying to make you think. Islam Moors? When we went up in Philadelphia, to Philadelphia on Moorish American Remembrance Day, here at Temple number 19, especially the brothers, when we go, if you all go next year, we don't go as tourists. We go on whole post, do we not? I picked my 12-year-old son up in New Jersey and took him with me. He's 12, right? Got up, went, as soon as, the Grand Sheikh began, he already know what to do. I put him on his post. 12. Islam, because he was born and raised in Korea, he already know what to do. Islam, Sheikh right here, more right here. Islam, he even had the more bodies with the vigilant eyes. Islam, so this is what we do. So we have to get out of this mode of, wanting to be entertained all the time.
Yes, sir. Islam.
We have to get out of that, right? When we're doing nation building stuff, we have to protect our leaders, right? So the brother was demonstrating, and and the security up there, the head of security, brother Sifu Rashid Lattimore Bey, he gave honors to the members of Temple number 19 for holding posts and so on and so forth. And mentioned all the people that were that were known, and there was people embedded throughout the crowd on posts. Because all you see is fez and turbans. So technically, you don't know who's on post. That's right. As it should be. We were just some of the ones that were visible, but there was ones that was invisible. Silent, secret, and sacred brotherhood. Islam, all right? And also take note that there's 19 instructions in that chapter, right? In the Holy Quran of Mecca, right, there's an instruction, there's an ayat, all right? The word ayat literally means miracle, but they translate it as verse. And in Arabic it says, alayha tisat ashar, which means over it are 19, meaning that the number 19 is a sacred vibration, that covers certain things. So someone with a mystical eye, wherever they see the number 19, they know to pay attention because there's keys there. Islam, this is how your forefathers hid things in plain sight, right? Because they didn't have the time to hide everything literally out of eyesight. So sometimes they put it right in your face, but if you're not initiated to that, you won't know what you're looking at. Islam, Morris? All right. Anybody have any questions at this point? Sister Queen, that food is smelling good, Mobodies. I'm trying to wrap it up myself. I'm trying to hold it down, but my Lord. Did I say my Lord? My Lord. Right? Let's draw for something real quick. My Allah. Thank you, Mobodies. See, that's why I'm married. Y'all brothers better get married. Get married. Mobodies got you. My Allah. Praise Allah. Shout out to Mother Love from Simple Living in Philadelphia. Sister S. Hopkins Bay. No one amongst the Moors can say praise Allah like that sister. Now, praise Allah. Praise Allah. Listen, there you go right there. I love that sister. I personally escorted her on my arm throughout, you know what I mean, and secured her in the car. So it was an honor, elder. All right, we have to teach our people, and our people always don't know what the Quran is. You got to teach what they know. And the Bible, in the book of Jeremiah, along the spirit of leadership, Jeremiah chapter 23, verse 1. And I'm going to just demonstrate instructions or verses 1 through 4. It says, "Woe to the shepherds who destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, says the Lord. Therefore, thus the Lord God of Israel speaks the Lord God of Israel against the shepherds who feed my people. You have scattered my flock and caused them to go astray and have not visited them. Behold, I will punish you according to your evil doings, says the Lord. And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all the countries where I have driven them, and I will bring them again into their folds." The prophet says the constitutional fold of government, right? "I will bring them again into their fold, and they shall be fruitful and increase. And I will set shepherds over them who shall feed them, and they shall fear no more, nor be scattered, nor shall they go astray, says the Lord." Islam, Morris? All right? So it's a holy and divine instruction that if you're set over people, Morris, leaders don't get sleep. Leaders ain't at the crib chilling, just no work. Nah, we're up. Because it's a burden and it's a yoke, right? You know what a yoke is? You know what a yoke is? The thing, that you just put around the ox, right? And that's what controls him so he can do his work. The guide, the plow, right? And the farmer holds the plow to make sure it goes straight, right? Right? But we have a yoke around it, but it's an honorable yoke. It's not an unnecessary burden, right? Allah offered us something and we accepted it. For those of us who heard the call and accepted it. But you have to find it within yourself. Do I have the strength to do such a thing, right? Let's move forward. In an article in the Moorish Guide newspaper, it's a short article, one paragraph. It's called "Following Our Leaders." This is a lesson that we must master, right? Following our leaders. The prophet says that thousands of Moorish Americans will follow their leaders, regardless of the propaganda put forth by those who have designs to hinder them in the work for the advancement of their people. We will not stop to question the requisites, qualifications, nor anything else, so long as our leaders who have investigated and passed on the course of action which we feel is enough endorsement for us to act. We have long known that the first attempt to crush the leaders of any movement or organization is to plant dissension amongst the followers. Such will never be the case with the Moorish Americans. For when we have chosen our leaders, that within itself tells the world that we are going to follow them. All of the knocks and slams that comes from anyone against our leaders will be ignored by us. Where they lead us, we will follow. When we hear and we obey, period. Islam, we're not setting up, we're not taking out our leaders, we're not slandering our leaders, we're not doing none of that, right? We're going to get behind them because the day may come where Allah called you to lead. Right? And just the way you honored that leader, you shall be honored. Islam? And when people slandered that leader and you came to his defense, people will come to your defense. Islam? But you have to have the wherewithal to go through all that. Because as a leader, you're going to be slandered. You're going to be reviled. All manners of hatred and filth are going to be said about you. And you have to be willing to weather the storm. Because time will bear you witness. Islam? Your good works will go forth. And you don't do the good works to pat your own self on the back or so people can pat you on the back, right? You do it because it's the right thing to do, all right? And in time, it blew my mind. We're in Philadelphia because more people knew us than we knew them. because they know us by our works. Our consistent works. And it's because of those consistent works that people are willing to support you. I got people calling me from all around the country right now trying to set up temples in areas where there are none. So in 2020, we got work to do.
New vision.
Islam? I'm headed to Oakland next month to set up a temple. Oh, you from Oakland?
Yes,
Praise Allah. I'm going to link you with a brother. Okay, Islam. I'm going to link you with my contact out there. But we going in the third week, inshallah, to establish a temple there. I got a call from a brother in Miami today. It's interested, desirous of setting up a temple. Islam. So we have work to do. This little temple, as humble as it is, Islam is looked at around the country for consistent work because they know we're not dirty. We're not doing a bunch of foul stuff in this temple. Look, let me say this. Prophet gave us 2 words. Caveat emptor. Let the buyer beware. Right? Means that as you travel amongst the Moors, I got a witness. Can I get a witness?
Come on now.
I come from 3 generations of preachers. Don't wake them genes up. I got some preacher genes in me now. But as you travel, you're going to see things. You're going to meet Moors. You're going to meet ones that's calling themselves Moors. You're going to see all manners of folly. You're going to see it, right? But what you have to do is you have to use the prophet's literature. You have to use that example. You have to use the laws. We don't just read those laws in the beginning for nothing. We read them to make them part of every part so you'll know how to operate. This chart is not just hanging on the wall. You know what I'm saying? There's in marching orders on here. Y'all, I'm not going to burden you with that now. If y'all come to Sunday school, I'll demonstrate it. All right? But it's a certain methodology in which we move, way in which we move. You all right, brother? Okay? There's a certain way in which we move. All right? But you're going to see ones do and try to justify their actions by way of the law. You have to know that if you don't know the law, then they'll pull that mess over on you. Right? In this republic that we live in, right? We don't know how to call those to their obligation who hold seats of power because we don't know the Constitution. We don't know the laws, right? So we're ignorant of what it is they're supposed to. It feels wrong, but we can't prove it. Because you have to sit down and study the law. You have to get with those who know law. Like the prophet says, if you doubt what I'm saying, go to those who know law and ask them in an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply. Islam? All right. So we have a way that we have to move as Moorish American Muslims, and we have an entire generation that's behind us that's coming up. Take a look at those babies. One of them not looking too happy. She's looking to the side. Exactly. But praise Allah more. That's what we work so hard for. Brothers as fathers, that thing of, stuff is slow right now, whatever. Then you come home and look at them babies. You find another. I gotta go get it. I gotta go get it. You go into overdrive, because that right there, the prophet says, I come for the young and yet unborn, right? And in another instance, he said, I come from the one that's standing next to the mother and the one that's on the mother's lap. Islam? All right, so this is what we fight for. Temple 39 in Raleigh, North Carolina, we went to visit them last year. And the children, came before us and demonstrated all 7 acts of divine constitution and bylaws from memory, right? And the Grand Sheikh jokes me, Grand Sheikh Nasir Ma'il, and give honors to his wife, Sister Hope Ma'il. When they were demonstrating, it took me back to another school of thought I was previously a member of, when the babies used to get up and recite. And I zoned out, and the Grand Sheikh looked at me because when I see the babies take hold of the mission, and they're demonstrating and stuff like that, I get that 1,000-yard stare. I'm ready to kill up everything in the room. They look like it's planned. You see what I'm saying? And I say that metaphorically, of course. I'm on camera. You know what I'm saying? Because that is what it's all about. It ain't about you. None of this is about you. With your self-selves, hard-headed. It's about those young ones, right? All that arguing back and forth with adults. Nah, start with clean slates. They just got here. They're closer to Allah than we are. That baby that's right there, she know all about how to submit to Allah. All about it.
All day.
Right? Find a time of prayer. View at your own devotions if you want to know how inconstant you are. Right? When was the last time you gave Allah gratitude for the simplest things? Right? For your eyesight. When was the last time you thanked Allah for your eyesight? It's people with eyeballs but can't use them. Right? Everybody breathing all right? You're breathing, right? You're not thinking about your breathing, all right? So it's an involuntary system to regulate your breathing, but we're not thankful for that, though. But if somebody pulled a brand new Bentley up and gave you the keys, you'd be praising the Lord and tap dancing and scratching where it don't itch and right? All of that. But your very breathing, you're not thankful for that, though. Till you need an oxygen tank to breathe.
Wow.
Islam? All right? So it's the simple things, but more science is accountability to self. And if you be true to yourself, you know it's things you got to do. Islam, Morris? All right? Are there any questions, comments, concerns, or statements? Right? Okay, so we have some food. Sister Queen has blessed us with some food. All right? I'd like to make a statement about that food. She's not able to go to the places where she obtains the food and show up in her turban and a smile and they just give her the food. Or she might be working some degrees, but let me work my degrees. Point is, we want to make sure that the sister is compensated in some manner, some form of donation. I think the donation was $7, $10, or whatever you choose to give. But give something. Don't grab a plate. Don't show up at that table with a hungry stomach and a handout, expecting to receive that and not offer the sister something. Islam, Moorish? That is simply not Moorish. Islam? You know, there's a lot of things, you know, like I said, this is an organization, but it's also a living culture. As Moorish Americans, we have a way that we do everything. Islam, being ungrateful is not one of them. You know what I'm saying? Hospitality, knowing how to carry yourself, conduct yourself, and knowing how to not burn out relationships is key to making this thing move forward. Right?
Drag somebody down.
And drag, exactly.
Sometimes you tend to do that.
We're adepts. We're very, very proficient at tearing each other down. Right?
And it don't even be, sometimes it don't be mental, it just be habit form, like, can I do this, or can you help me with this? Like, dang, bro.
Yeah. And you don't mind helping, but it has to be mutual.
Yeah.
It has to be a sense of mutuality. If the mutuality is not there,
You gonna do the barter, you do the barter.
something. But it has to be something though, right? But part of that European psychology is to get to, because that's slave mentality. You want everybody to do.
Get over
Just do for me, and you don't intend to do anything else. Islam? So, let's assist our sister in that regard, and let's show our sisters that we are, grateful Moorish Americans for not even just the supplies, but for the labor, the time that it took, the setup, everything. Islam, Moors? Let's be a better people. She ain't playing no game. I mean, smell better than the inside.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
حي على الصلاة
Allahu